Welcome everyone, and hopefully you guys are having an awesome and enjoyable day. Today we're going to be discussing about one of the most important but not so thought questions of the game. Why doesn't Yeeps feel the same as they used to? Sorry to interrupt the video, but I have a teeny tiny favor for everybody watching this video. This video has been taking me a long while to make, from writing the script, to recording, to editing this video, to even rewatching it and changing some errors. If you guys could maybe hit that button that says subscribe, it would help me out a ton. Now without further ado, let's get started with this video. The Yeeps community is not the best, but compared to the other games, it still takes a huge lead. When comparing the game to other VR giants such as Girl Tag, Rec Room, or VR Chat, the game's popularities are huge, but the communities are not the best. At the beginning, the game had one of the best, if not the best, communities out there in any VR game. But as the game got more and more popular, the community grew. But with more players comes more toxic players. The game's community has been going down, but it still isn't bad at all. Now, one of the other reasons why the game doesn't feel the same anymore is because of the gadgets. The game is almost fully built around gadgets, but the gadgets nowadays feel different from how they used to be. Back then we had very select few gadgets inside the game, such as impulse bombs, bats, pellet guns, and umbrellas. Now we have so many gadgets for many different purposes. For example, combat, travel, pets, and a bunch of other useful utilities. But if we take a look at some of the most recent gadgets, for example the prop scanner or the chainsaw, they are much different from how the older gadgets were. If you would go into the past and tell a random Yeeps player that in the future we'll have a way to turn into other blocks, the chances of them not believing you are probably pretty high. But now, it's a base part of the game and nobody bats an eye. Now for over the past year we've had some very loved and some, well, not so loved maps. But after they started removing maps such as Hills, Plaza, and Theater, the player base hasn't been that happy. Of course now they're available in community worlds, but some of them aren't, like To the Top or Battlecrafts. Now we have a wide selection of maps, but one map that caught my eye was Catacombs. This map got added on the 6th of March 2025 and got removed on 3rd of April 2025. This map wasn't available for even a complete month and it got removed. Ever since it was removed, it has been slowly left into the corner to dust. Now, back then we used to only have a few maps such as Blue House, Starter House, Playground, and a few more. But now we got a huge count of 16 maps. But if we can build a map, then it's 20. This is one of the reasons why older maps have been removed. Because if they wouldn't have removed any, you would probably have to walk through over 10 maps to get to a certain map. Now, don't get me wrong, some of these map additions have been good and some have been not so good. Arguably one of the weirdest ones has to be Skate Park. This map was one of the least played maps at the time, and after it got removed, the players weren't so happy to see it go. Now, one of the other things that also has been affecting the feeling of the game has been the game's evolution. And no, this isn't by any bad means. The game has had so much development since the first release on March 14, 2024. In the very early days, there was no signs to show which map was which, so these signs were a new addition after the game's launch. We didn't have world maps, achievements, mobile app promo codes, or most of that stuff. Now we just look and think, oh yeah, that seems completely normal to me. Which, don't get me wrong, those are some very nice and neat additions to the game. But when we look back and notice how it used to be, it's quite a bit different. When the game finally got its full release on July 18, 2024, player count started skyrocketing. And with that, they started doing so much more to the updates and a bunch of other stuff, such as having collabs from large to some small details. For example, a creators event where 8 different YouTubers were a part of, or the very small collab with Animal Company on April Fools with this tiny advertisement. Now, there has been some large and small reworks when it comes to the game. For example, like gadgets. Their coin pricing can go both up or down. One rework that we saw with the chainsaw was, for example, that it was never supposed to be available in play mode, but instead being locked behind creative mode. But when the players started asking the devs if they could add it to play mode, and do a few changes to it, which actually worked, and now it's both for creative mode and play mode. Now, some that have been affected the old feeling of Yeeps, for example, is the fact that breaking pillows with bats actually used to give you cotton, and also that fireworks used to be only 500 cotton, then the price got up to 800, and then it was changed to 600, which is how it is currently. Now, some other noticeable reworks slash revamps slash additions that aren't exactly around the gadgets are the additions to OG maps. For example, Blue House never used to have these pillows, or that Playground didn't used to have these 2 zip lines, but now they've been left into the game for players to enjoy. Also, Starter House never used to have these zip lines, but now they're a neat detail to the map. Now, arguably the largest and the most effective reason why the game doesn't feel the same is community worlds. It started off with some simple stuff like hide-and-seek maps, hangout maps, and some other stuff. But now it's been infected with only-ups, run maps, and probably now grow garden maps too. Before community worlds, Starter House was all, hey GG mate. Can somebody show me what all the bug coins does to show? Does anybody want to join my community world? Join the code only of 4,728 for a chance for free staff, which is definitely different from how it used to be. Now, what I think is probably the largest effect why the game doesn't feel the same anymore is the idea. Back then it was only hide and seek, but then they added Spleef, which was very fun, but different from what the name suggests that the game is about. Then they started doing more and more to the game, which made it less like hide and seek. For example, Tab Tag, Hangout, Goblin, FFA, Survival, and a bunch of other stuff. I even heard somewhere that the name is going to be renamed to just Yeeps, which, if it is true, it would be a pretty good change in my opinion, but it will take some OG feeling out of the game for the older players. Like me, but it's not that big of a deal. Now, we've gone through some of the largest reasons why the game just doesn't feel the same anymore. And the reason why is because the game's changing, which is normal to any game. They've added and removed some good stuff, but it also doesn't mean that the game is bad altogether. And they've added some stuff that was small at first, but then has made itself to the point where it's one of the biggest and most important parts of the game. This journey has been great, and I will be excited to see what the game has to offer in the near future. But until then, goodbye, and I'll see you guys in the next video.